The Shinichi Magatsumi is by far the strongest and most overwhelming enchanted blade. That fact has pretty much been consistent throughout the entire story thus far, and up until the Rakuzachi arc, this was the most mysterious blade. Not because we didn't know anything about it, as we didn't know anything about the other blades either, but because of the portrayal that it was giving. The first time we see all of the enchanted blades, they're all encased in these like unique boxes, but the Shinichi specifically has extra protection and layers to which it just stood out significantly in comparison to the rest of them. Now, originally seeing the Shinichi in its box, I thought that we weren't going to see this sword until pretty much the end of the series. I mean, at this point, it's pretty much being established as some type of in-game content. So as you can probably put together, I wasn't in any way, shape, or form expecting it to be used in the very second arc of the series. Speaking on which, I see people getting confused with the name of this sword, which isn't something you normally expect, but I understand the confusion. The name of the sword is Magatsumi, but the title is simply Sanuchi. And the title Sanuchi is derived from ancient Japanese swordsmithing, where whenever you were to have a very renowned blacksmith forge a sword, they typically made not just one but multiple swords due to the unpredictability of certain aspects when forging them. But the single best sword out of the batch would be titled Sanuchi, and traditionally would be given to an extremely high-ranking samurai. So just about every detail from this sword, even down to its name, is just informing us that it's better than all of the other ones. And the Shinichi isn't just more powerful than the other enchanted blades, but it's also very much more complex than them. While all the other enchanted blades thus far have only 3 abilities, the Shinichi has shown much more than that. Just getting into it, the first ability we actually see is Spider. Now, Spider is simply just an immobilization technique, and it's just shown to be used in combination with something else. Both Kiora and Yura actually use Spider and follow up with a Dragonfly, which makes sense if you have an ability that just stunts someone for a certain period of time. If you don't do anything after that or follow up with anything, you're just gonna go back to being able to move. Speaking of this specific ability, Dragonfly has actually been depicted in multiple ways. When we first see Kiora use it, it's shown to trail along the ground when traveling towards the hero, and it's stated it would require firepower on the level of Hiyuki's flame bone to combat with it. Yura also uses it on Azami, and in this case, he just eviscerates all the muscles and bones in his arm. Then he uses it on Chihiro, but he uses it as some sort of force push and just blasts Chihiro through a building, which is kind of what Centipede does, but Centipede is definitely the most consistently used ability, and it just shoots off energy in all directions with the exception of a small vicinity directly behind the wielder, which is where the force of Centipede is much weaker. This small gap allowed a zombie to come out pretty much completely unscathed after Centipede's activation. Centipede also has a recovery period, which makes sense. It would be a little overpowered if someone would be able to just spam an already overwhelming force of energy in just all directions. The next ability is Butterfly. Now, Butterfly is similar to Kuro in the fact that it is a long-range slashing attack, but unlike Kuro, the time in between the activation and when the attack actually lands is just infinitesimal, as when it does travel towards its target, it travels by completely cutting through the space itself, and under normal conditions, it's pretty much impossible to dodge or evade this ability. Luckily, Chihiro doesn't actually abide under the normal conditions, and due to the just abnormal levels of perception he inherited from Kunishige, and of course, training throughout his time being a swordsmith, while also amplified by Nishiki, he's just able to see the pathway of Butterfly, thus being able to dodge it. But pretty much any other circumstances, you're not dodging this attack. Even Samura, someone who throughout the entirety of part 1 pretty much is considered the top of the verse behind Akamura himself, just isn't able to do anything. Now, if you've read or just watched JJK, this ability would of course be very familiar to you. It's pretty much identical to Sukuna's war cutting slide. The very last ability we've seen so far is B. B has a very blatant explanation. It's just a concentrated piercing attack that channels all of its energy into a singular point. And we see when Akamura uses B, he uses it to drill a massive hole 300 meters down into the core of the Kaminabi's force field. That's pretty much all the abilities we've seen from the Shinichi thus far, but due to the nature of the Shinichi, it doesn't really have different abilities in the sense that the other enchanted blades have about 3 abilities. The Shinichi is actually just using one thing. This one thing in question can just be molded in an infinite amount of variations. So while abilities like Centipede, Dragonfly, Butterfly are going to be commonly used on screen, theoretically, the Shinichi does just have an infinite amount of various abilities. So it's almost like the Shinichi just can do about anything. So yeah, this is just supporting the idea that the Shinichi itself is just far beyond even the other enchanted blades. And in, I believe, chapter 112, the enchanted blades are explained to possess the potential to elevate into this esoteric realm, or just this state that turns the spirit energy black. And in this black state, unlike the normal abilities which rely on spirit energy, the black state requires life force. And the difference in this case is that life force within Kagurabachi doesn't naturally replenish, so it's just far more dangerous and risky to use this power. Not only that, it's kind of being implied that it does require a extremely high level of understanding and compatibility with your enchanted blade to even be able to access this capability. In Chihiro's case though, he used the life force of Kuragumo itself, which didn't necessarily cause any harm to himself, but in Samura's case, he used his own life force to supply the black flames. But due to it being his life force, Tobimune sustained pretty much no damage. But in the Shinichi's case, it just robs life force from the surrounding area, which in turn supplies it with the required energy to sustain the dark state. So no risk is really posed towards the user and the Shinichi itself. Although I am curious what would happen if there was no longer any life force for the Shinichi to steal. Like, would it just start using its own life force, or would it start stealing life force from the wielder, or would it just go back to its base state? But the Shinichi has many unique things and abilities that goes just far beyond the typical standard or limitations we know the enchanted blades do have. But the main one that we've seen so far is that someone is able to use the Shinichi even if they're not necessarily contracted to the blade. Throughout the entirety of part 1, Akamura Soga has been the one and only individual contracted to the Shinichi, but we've seen 2 characters, excluding him, actually utilize its power. Those 2 characters obviously being Kiora and Yura. Now, specifically why they're able to use this power isn't actually explained exactly in detail thus far, but I do think it might be related to the fact that the Shinichi supplies itself with energy from the life surrounding it and not completely relying on the energy from the wielder. But again, that's just a theory. I think something else that's noteworthy is the fact that Yura states he embedded his energy in the Shinichi before he actually gave it up. And we know this would obviously be before the Rakuzachi because, not only is it stated, but right after the Rakuzachi, Chihiro took the sword and he gave it up to Kaminabi in order to make a deal with them. And up until chapter 100, we know the Kaminabi have actually had the blade and been attempting to seal it. So the point is that there's nothing to say that Yura couldn't have just activated the power of the Shinichi whenever he wanted to. The seal for the Shinichi was already broken before Yura gave it to Kiora. Yura broke the seal himself. So what I'm saying is there's literally nothing to say Yura couldn't have activated it at the same time Kiora did. The only reason he didn't is because he didn't actually know whether or not he would be able to use it. So in this case, Kiora was simply just a guinea pig. And all Yura got from the Rakuzachi was the fact you can actually use the Shinichi's power with the fact that you have the mental fortitude to be able to sustain corrosion that Akamura is going to put you through. So realistically, an unknown amount of people could infuse their energy into the Shinichi and all use its power at the same time, which is just crazy to think about. Like, let's say even 5 people infuse their energy into the Shinichi and all started using its power at the same time. If Akamura himself isn't affecting their mind or just corroding them or corrupting them, then you would just have 5 sorcerers who are of Yura's caliber just running around. Yura himself was actually using the corrosion ability from the Magutsumi before he even touched the sword itself. Pretty much the only thing stopping this from being the case is Akamura himself. Again, if he just isn't corrupting people's minds, he could theoretically just have a small army of individuals just wielding his power. But yeah, that's pretty much everything about the Shinichi thus far. Hopefully you're clicking out this video with a better understanding of how it works and what its capabilities are. And if you are enjoying the Kagurabachi content, subscribe to the channel. If you want to talk to me or a group of people or just anybody about Kagurabachi, join the Discord. I'm going to put it at the top link of the description. But with that being said, y'all peace out, man.